Web Marketing That Works podcast, episode 52.
Welcome to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. Come behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments and listen in as amazing guests confess the truth about what really works. Now, here are your hosts, Adam Franklin and Toby Jenkins.
Hi there, I'm Adam Franklin, and you are listening to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. It is the show for people who love marketing on the web. And today's guest is Kate Toon, who is an SEO copywriter from Sydney, who I've actually been following for quite a long time, and she's been highly recommended by many other guests on the show. Today, we'll take you behind the scenes of SEO, as well as copywriting, and many of Kate's real-life marketing experiments. Some have gone well, some not so well, but we're always learning. We confess what's failed, and we'll reveal the truth about what has really worked. Now, this podcast is brought to you by our book, which is also called Web Marketing That Works, and specifically brought to you by the 33 free marketing templates that go with it. So if you'd like to get your hands on those templates, please head to bluewiremedia.com.au/book. All right, now let's kick off the show. Hello there, I am very excited to be joined by Kate Toon on the podcast. Welcome, Kate.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, did you know that you're actually one of our most recommended copywriters and SEO specialists over the years, and I can't believe it's taken me this long to connect with you properly and to get you on the show.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I've been cyber stalking you for quite a while as well, and then you finally meet, and that, we actually met in the flesh, which was even more freaky.
Yeah, so, randomly, the pro blogger, the follow-up the last morning, as we were all just going home, it was great to bump into you at the cafe there.
Yeah, exactly. It's great to finally put names to faces and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, so over the years, Glenn Murray and Jonathan Crossfield, amongst others, have spoken very highly of you, and you've been on my radar for a long, long time. Now, your official bio says that you're an award-winning SEO copywriter and SEO consultant with plenty of experience, having worked with big brands and helped countless small businesses produce great content. And you've recently founded the Clever Copywriting School, which aims to help aspiring copywriters build a thriving copywriting business, hone their writing skills, connect with other writers, and boost their confidence. Now, that's a brief overview of your business. Would you mind just filling me in on more of the detail of what you do?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a copywriter really, and I gave myself the brand of an SEO copywriter. Although I think, as we'll probably discuss today, I'm not sure such a thing exists anymore. But yeah, I kind of do all marketing related things for my clients. So whether it's information architecture, writing, sometimes I help out with a bit of dev or training. So I'm a bit of a Jackie of all trades. Across anything digital, really.
Yeah, and why would you say SEO copywriting may no longer exist as we used to know it?
Well, I guess, in the old days, perhaps there was more of an art to placing keywords in particular spots and that kind of thing, or at least there was a perception that there was some kind of magic keyword density figure. But I think, pretty much everyone realizes these days that it's not about shoehorning a particular keyword into copy. It's more about, writing for humans first and Google second, and just making sure your copy is focused, and on target, but more so making it engaging and enjoyable to read.
And when you say focus, do you mean like the actual, all the keyword phrase lining up with all the signals that you're giving to Google? Is that what you mean by focus?
I guess I do mean that, but I also think it's about, any good marketing and any good advertising is generally single-minded. So, if you have a single product to sell on a page, just talk about that product. If you have a single service that you want to discuss, just talk about that rather than jumping around from one thing to another, and kind of having pages that read like shopping lists of stuff, So I think it's just about clarity, and making it usable and easy for the reader to digest. Sure. And then that kind of goes hand in hand with, trying to pick one keyword phrase per page and doing it justice rather than trying to fit 50 keyword phrases into a single page,
Sure. We might dive into SEO in a bit more detail later on.
Yes.
But in the meantime, how would you describe your web marketing philosophy?
Well, I think, over the years, I've gone around with my clients telling them to kind of, be yourself. I know that's a bit cheesy and a bit Oprah Winfrey, but, I think you should definitely, when you're marketing your business or your solo business, be yourself or a slightly more interesting version of yourself, at least. Because I kind of think although you can develop some, high-end marketing plan and, do a lot of strategy work and all that kind of thing, it can become exhausting and it can, after a while, come across as a little bit inauthentic. So if you try and work out what your brand is and if it's closely associated with who you are as a person, it's going to be much easier in the long term to keep up your marketing energy and keep it real, I think.
And I think you're a great example of being yourself and having that personality in your writing, because you're one of the few bloggers who I read that I actually laugh out loud when I read some of your articles.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, that your emails and your email signature, you don't work. Is it Mondays or Fridays? Mondays.
I don't work Mondays, yeah.
Yep, which is brilliant. Good lifestyle that you're living there on the Central Coast, Kate.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And other things like that article that you wrote, the different types of client, good clients and bad clients. Just speaking from the heart, and me having, managed a lot of website projects over the years and dealt with a lot of clients, I was just absolutely laughing because you were just so on the money with all of those descriptions. And I guess it probably takes a fair bit of confidence in your writing and your business to be so forward with actually spilling the beans on these types of people.
I think that's true. And I think, look, it's not for everybody. Some potential clients will come to my site and they won't like that style. They won't like the humor, or they won't like the fact that I kind of poke fun at the whole world of advertising. But for the ones that do, they really do. So it's a good way for me to cut the wheat from the chaff, as it were, and really find clients who I want to work with. I'm in the fortunate position where I have a lot of leads, and so I can actually choose clients who I think I'm going to click with, because it's quite an intimate journey writing copy for a business. You talk to the client a lot and they share a lot of, insight into their feelings about their business. So you've got to like each other, I think. And if you can like each other and have a laugh and produce great work, it just makes it more enjoyable, full stop, I think.
Yeah, you've really got to understand them as a person and the business really quite well to be able to speak in a language that sounds like them or is them, essentially.
Well, that's it. That's because that's what they want. They don't want the copy on their site to sound like it was written by somebody else. They want it to sound like it was written by them, especially, solo business people. And, the only way you can do that is to strike up a rapport. So if someone's doesn't, it's pretty much, it sounds a bit sort of arrogant, but if someone's not going to laugh at my jokes or enjoy talking to me, I'm probably not going to be able to draw out of them what I need to write the copy.
That's a good point, and it's got to be fun, doesn't it? If you're running your own business or doing work for anybody, then it's meant to be enjoyable.
Well, that's it. And, I worked in big ad agencies for 15 or so years where I couldn't choose my clients, and I had to work with whoever I was told to work with. So one of the, the sweet joys of working for yourself is that you can pick and choose who you work with if you're lucky enough to have enough work coming in.
So are some of those red flag type clients from your advertising days, are they, Kate?
I was pretty lucky, actually. I worked with some fantastic people who are still, friends and clients today. I mean, that's what I built my network on. But yeah, of course, there are a few assholes as well, if I'm allowed to say that on a podcast. You
are. So what have been your aha moments on the journey so far, Kate?
I think my biggest aha moment was when I stopped thinking about my competitors as competition, and I started thinking of them as creative allies and people who I could actually, talk to and share ideas with. That working on your own in an office, can be a very lonely business, and you can spend a lot of time stressing and worrying about what everybody else is doing. So it was a relief to me when I started communicating with other copywriters and they all had the same problems. You talk about Glenn Murray, Jonathan Crossfield, and there's plenty of others. And, we share a really strong bond, all of us, and we're very open with each other. And it's great to see these writers who you've had on a pedestal and talk to them, and they worry about all the same stuff you do. It was super reassuring. So that was probably the biggest aha moment so far, I'd say.
And that's one of the beauties of working on the web, I reckon, because we all see each other as friends and allies. And yes, we might do the same types of work. There might be some overlap or even very unusually, but, we might be going for the same client. But for the most part, there's so much we can learn from one another. And I just find it so refreshing compared to, say, a lot of other industries that just seem so protective and they just hoard their knowledge and they treat everybody like competitors and don't share anything. And I think they're just limiting what they can learn and how they can improve. Whereas, in the web world, we're all pretty much a friendly bunch, hey?
I'd agree. I mean, when I've formed a number of sort of small communities of copywriters, where people can freely share, problems, rates, difficult clients, all that kind of thing. And yeah, there were plenty of copywriters who refused that invitation. And there are a few bad seeds out there who don't take that attitude. But I just think it's totally their loss. If you're going to be all like, you're stealing my clients and, all that kind of approach, it's kind of what goes around comes around. I think it's just bad karma. And, I've never had a bad experience from sharing with other copywriters so far, I say.
Yeah, so far, fingers crossed. Well, I'm sure it will be, because I think the whole mentality of being generous online with clients and competitors and friends is just definitely the way to go. Because I guess half the time, the type of customer you want would be different to the type of customer, say, Glenn Murray wants, different to the type of client Jonathan Crossfield wants. Or even if they were all the same, there's so much work out there, right, that there's only so much you can do. There's
only so much you can do unless you want to start some kind of, big agency, which is exactly what I don't want to do. So, Glenn and I have exchanged referrals plenty of times, and as you said, there's certain things I don't like to write, like annual reports and things like that, which to other copywriters, they're their bread and butter. So it makes huge sense to share the love. I think share the love.
What do you look for in a client?
Again, someone who laughs at my jokes. I'm just going to bring it up again.
But that's a good start.
I guess someone who, when I talk to them on the phone, has genuine enthusiasm for what we're about to do together. Someone who's open to new ideas, and I love it when people say, "Oh, I've written this, but I'm not precious. I want you to rip it to shreds. That's why I'm employing you." I guess someone who's willing to let me do my job. I don't see the point of employing someone and, like having a dog and barking yourself. But really, that is it. It's totally based on the vibe I get from them. I've had as much enjoyment writing about like hot water pipes as I have about writing about, supposedly cool things like Coca-Cola. Because, words are words. And I actually think it's more of a challenge to write about something maybe a bit dry or dull than it is to write about something that's so blatantly fun. I mean, one of my biggest copywriting challenges was to write copy for a revolutionary new vibrator that has recently come on the market. And to, it was such a good challenge to write about something that's usually so seedy and maybe has a bit of negative connotation, but to turn it into what I tried to turn it into, which was the iPhone of vibrators, because it's super technological. And that was huge fun, but I reckon lots of copywriters might have turned that down. So it's sometimes the funniest jobs that turn out to be your favorites,
Yeah, a lot of them might have blushed at that job.
Exactly. But it was a really good challenge, and I learned a lot about, which adjectives kind of give good positive feelings and which ones don't. And, it was really interesting. It really stretched me. So that was good.
Nice. Now, along the journey, I'm always keen to hear about the types of marketing experiments that you've done deliberately or inadvertently. And so the next section of the podcast is where we look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'm hoping you might be able to share with us something that has worked well for you.
I'd say without a doubt, it's my website. I built it myself. I probably redesigned it about 7 times. It's due for another redesign because I do like to try and keep, up with the latest bits and bobs. But, I put a lot of effort into that, almost fanatically at times. And, I'm sure sometimes people have questioned my level of effort there, the number of blogs I produced and things like that. But, it's my backbone of my business. It's my money maker. It's everything, and so that investment has definitely paid off. And, we talked about SEO a little bit. I feel that my website is the proof of the pudding. I rank very highly for a lot of keywords. I get a lot of traffic and a lot of inquiries. So, if I can do that for myself, I think it shows that I can do that for clients. So that's probably it's not really a marketing experiment, but I guess the experiment is how much I've invested in it, I guess.
Because it's often one of those things that's not a very sexy thing to do. And it's time consuming. It's always got headaches and unforeseen disasters within it. And they always, not always, but very often go over budget. over time, and people are just pulling their hair out by the end of it. But really, it is by far the most important thing. And too often people just skip over it, hey, or even once they get it built and launched, then that's it. Then they think, oh, we'll just go around and play around on social media now. But
well, that's it. And I always say to people, your website's not just for Christmas, it's for life, and that's something I find when I go to a site and it quite clearly hasn't been updated in 6 or 7 months. I'm like, how seriously are you taking your business? You're busy posting pictures of cats falling off stuff on Facebook, but your website, looks like it was finished in 2011. I think people sometimes get misguided or move on to things when they should really be focusing on the core, which generally for most online businesses today is their own site,
Absolutely. And yeah, any business that has an online presence, which they all should, bricks and mortar businesses, they should all be focusing on that as their primary, that and email, in my opinion.
Yeah, email. I think email's underrated as well. So yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about what's failed, Kate? What can you share with us that didn't work as well as maybe you'd hoped?
Well, I have an awful lot of ideas, and I guess one of my biggest flaws is that I'm super enthusiastic about stuff, and I'll build a site, in a day and a half and then go, oh God, now I have to maintain it. What have I done to myself? So I think, while there hasn't been any dramatic failures other than, more, the failures have more been things that have come from the outside. So I've had, negative SEO attacks, and I've had viruses and, things like that. But I haven't really had any major marketing flops, as it were. More that I've kind of just got overexcited about something, and then the next day I'm not quite as excited about it. I'd say my failures with clients, because there've been a few of those, have generally come when I've tried to cut corners. So, it's a big brand and they need something yesterday, and I just launch into it and throw all my processes out the window. I don't get a signed proposal or I don't get a deposit, and then you do the work and 6 months later they pay you, or it's an absolute nightmare because you didn't define the scope. So I think that's where my failures have, and not listening to my gut. Sometimes you talk to a client and you just know that it's not going to work out, but you think, oh no, well, I'll give it a go, and then it doesn't work out.
And it costs you more money than you got paid.
More money. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And what about have there been any dead set shockers along the way?
I think not a shocker as much, but I think, this last year I launched a whole series of SEO workshops, and while they were successful and they sold out and they were great and I've had good feedback, I thought they were a bit of a get rich quick scheme, and I was totally unrealistic about the time and effort involved in selling things like that and running them and all the other things that go into running an event that, usually we don't think about, catering and chairs and stuff like that. So, I put a huge amount of work into them, and probably the return on investment was probably non-existent. I learned a lot, so that was great, and I have a lot of material and I'm connected with a lot of people, but I didn't make any money.
Right. And did it lead to more business down the track, like since you've run those workshops, or have they kind of just come in, bought their ticket, and that's been it?
It has. No, a few guys have, come back for work, but, my issue is often that I just don't have the scope to do that work. So, more importantly, it's led to some nice relationships, I think, with people. Again, a lot of people who came to the courses were actually my competitors. They were other copywriters. So it was nice to put names to faces to a lot of people. So, it wasn't a dead set shocker, but I guess it was in terms of revenue,
Yeah, sure. Because events are an interesting beast, aren't they? They can be so nerve-wracking because most people don't decide to attend until the last minute, or the last week anyway. Yeah. And so you put all this effort in, and then you just go, all right, well, I've committed to it now. Now I've got to sell the tickets, and it can be anybody's guess how many people are actually going to commit. And, we've had ones where nobody's bought a ticket, one person's bought a ticket, or there've been hundreds of people buy tickets. It's just... That's
it. You just don't know. And I think also that really, it's hard work standing up in front of a room of people for 8 hours and explaining something, So often after I ran a half marathon a couple of years ago, and often the way I feel after doing a workshop, I feel like I felt the day after running the marathon, so they take their physical toll as well, which is not to be underestimated,
and the emotional toll of waiting for those ticket sales to tick over.
Yeah, exactly. It's stressful, and almost foolish when I have other clients knocking on the door wanting me to try and, you know what I mean? Sometimes you get an idea to do something because it's a cool idea, but it's not necessarily right for your business, So that's what I think I need to get a little bit better at, recognizing the right opportunities rather than just an opportunity.
Yeah, and a lot of the time you've actually got to go through and actually execute it to actually learn that though, hey? Because if you didn't actually run the event, and of course you get better and better each time you do it, typically, ticket sales might vary, of course, and the ROI may vary, but I guess if you don't do that, then you don't learn and you don't know for next time where your time's best spent. So
exactly. I think from now on I'll be speaking at other people's events. They can sell the tickets and I'll just rock up. That's what I think will be a lot more fun.
That's a lot less stressful, definitely. Yeah. If you were starting a business from scratch, like some of our listeners may be doing or thinking of doing, how would you approach it?
Well, I think I've probably made it clear already that my first step would be to build a really great, responsive, probably WordPress or similar website and start adding content. And I do that before, people often rush out and get their business cards printed and they've got 400 business cards. I did that and still got the box, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, I think I'd focus on what's important, and I'd say that's your website. And then I think after that, it's more for me around really working out, your processes, like your financials and your account, and getting a good accountant and what software you need, all the boring stuff, not the sexy stuff, getting that all in place so that when you do get busy, which you hopefully will, you can fall back on a really good structure. And then I think after that, it's all about networking, and whether you choose to network online by joining forums or community groups or whatever it is, or physically get yourself out there and meet people. I just think, the more people who know you're doing what you do, the better.
It's a good point there, because that's where I find it's often gets scary and confronting, because if you start to network with people online or in person, all of a sudden you're making your work public, your work could be criticized, you can get negative comments. And I feel that the safety net of being anonymous is often a very challenging or confronting one to push through. But you see online particularly that if you are prepared to put yourself out there a little bit and a little bit more and knock on some doors and ask some questions, and that's where a lot of the results come from, and that's where a lot of people can differentiate themselves versus someone with just as much skill, but they've got that, I guess, the bravery to go out and network with people and to grow their network.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think a lot of people who start solo businesses or choose to work at home, maybe they are slightly introverted. They're looking to escape that kind of, busy office environment. And, it can be a big step to, even do things like podcasts or speak at events. But as soon as you do it, it just gets so much easier, and the more you do it, the more relaxed you get. And then you actually start to enjoy it and get a kick out of it. And, so I think you're right. So a huge part of success in business is confidence, I think, just having the confidence to do stuff and to fail and dust yourself off and get up and fail all over again.
Because failing's guaranteed. There's no doubt about that.
It is, exactly.
It's the price of entry, exactly. I think. If you can keep failing and then get up and, as you say, dust yourself off and do it again and keep persisting and finding ways to improve, then if you keep doing that for about a decade or 3, then maybe success is at the end of that path. But
let's hope so.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It's definitely networking and plays such a big part of it. So what's next on the marketing front for you, Kate?
Well, I've got another harebrained scheme. No, I'm actually planning to turn all that hard work from those workshops into an e-course for SEO. So, producing something that people can study at home with, videos and checklists and all that kind of thing. So that'll be my next challenge over the next 6 months, is to kind of build that, promote it, create the content and sell it. But, as always, my challenge is to do all of that while keeping my bread and butter work coming through. So, maintaining that workflow. So not getting too sucked into my new idea, keeping my old ideas running along as well, because they pay the mortgage.
Sounds like you need a few clones.
I do. I've recently taken on board for the first time ever a virtual assistant just for 5 hours a week, but gosh, it's made a difference. But yeah, one of the things about my business is I don't really like subcontracting the actual copywriting. I've tried, it just never really works, because I do feel, I'm not saying I'm the best copywriter in the world, but I do have quite a distinct tone of voice. And I think people can really tell when I haven't written it. So, and I don't want to be an agency. I don't want to have 20 copywriters working for me. That's exactly why I left agency life. So I have to try and find ways to make it work with just me, because that's how I like it.
And then I guess you just look for the other parts that you can outsource, the finances or invoicing or anything else that leads you to do the part that needs Kate Toon to be there.
Well, that's it. And I think that is a super important part of running a business, especially after the first couple of years when you've got it bedded down. Do you really want to be fiddling with your own website, doing your own design, doing your own books, mowing your own lawn, or can you pay somebody much less than what you can earn to do that for you so you can focus on the juicy bits?
Yeah, that's a great philosophy. So part 3, can you share with us what web marketing tactics bring you the most joy?
For me, it's creating new products. I'm full of ideas. I love creating new ideas for clients, but I love creating them for myself as well. I like, usually for me, because I do a lot of creative writing as well. So I've written a couple of books, not marketing books, like kids books, and written lots of plays and short films. So usually I have like a creative idea, like a silly name or something. And then from there comes an idea of a product or a service. And, you pull it together, you do the graphics, you think of the features and the benefits, you think about the price, and then you start selling it. So that's probably the favorite thing that I do.
Right. Okay. Talk us through like a specific process or stuff you've got working on at the moment, or some examples of that.
Well, a while ago, I developed something called the Pick My Brain service. I just Pick My Brain is a very commonly used term, but I kind of wanted, I think quite visually, so I kind of wanted to have a nice graphic of a brain and somebody pulling words like SEO and stuff out of a brain, my brain. So that's where the idea started. And over the years, it's evolved into kind of an auditing and consultation service where I talk to people over Skype. But it's changed so much, in terms of pricing and what it includes and, how I sell it. And I guess that's one of them. And then, at the moment, my e-course, I'm really enjoying planning the site and writing the copy. And, I get myself on Canva. I love Canva, and create my graphics. And, it's fun. It's probably not necessarily the best use of my time, but it's what gives me pleasure. And I think it can't all be just work, work, work. You have to find bits of your job that you do generally, give you pleasure, and playing with Canva is one of those for me.
Yeah, because you gravitate to the things that you enjoy most, and then you do a better job at it, and you get better feedback and better results. So I totally agree with with finding the stuff that brings you the joy. Now, what do you prefer most out of SEO copywriting? And I guess I mean helping a client put their keywords together and then writing a piece, versus I guess more the
advertising,
or more just the really expressive blog posts that you do, or maybe they're sort of in your mind woven together so tightly that it's one and the same.
Well, I mean, look, I do enjoy the creative side of things. So, at the moment I'm working on some video scripts and some, print ads, and I do enjoy the creative freedom that gives you, rather than writing what in advertising terms we'd call long copy, web pages and, long brochures and things. So I do enjoy that, and I love writing my blog posts, but I only can write those blog posts if I really am passionate about the idea. And, that's why I don't necessarily post every week, because I don't want to write if I'm just going to write something boring that's been written before. So, but I think my great joy is that one day I do a bit of SEO, next day I do a video script, then I do some marketing, then I do a blog post, some tweets, some Facebook updates. I get the whole gambit. So when I get sick of writing video scripts, great, there's an SEO client. So I think the variety is what I like most. There's no one thing that I would like to do all the time. I love the fact that I get to jump around and do different things.
And so you're known as an SEO copywriter. I guess I'm keen to know how you would explain, or how you would do a really basic, how you teach a newbie to SEO. How would you explain, one, how Google works and what they should be doing?
Well, that's what I've been trying to explain with these workshops, and believe me, it's not easy. I think I'd say that, Google looks for signals on every website and every individual page of your site. And it's trying to do is improve the user experience for people who are typing stuff into Google. And I think sometimes people feel, why does Google hate me? Why does it make it so difficult? But if you've ever used Bing or Yahoo and searched for something, you can see why Google makes it difficult, because the quality of the results is so much better. So it's all SEO and SEO copywriting is understanding what Google's looking for. They're looking for a fast site that's well coded. They're looking for a site that works well on different devices. That's all the technical side of things. And from a copy point of view, if your page is selling, yellow cashmere guinea pig jumpers, you kind of got to talk about yellow cashmere guinea pig jumpers on the page, and you don't necessarily need to use that phrase again and again. You can use synonyms, you can talk about woolen guinea pig jumpers or guinea pig pullovers or knitting for guinea pigs, but you kind of got to give Google a bit of what it wants, because otherwise how's it going to know what that page is about? It is at the end of the day a machine, not a human. So you got to feed the Google beast, but at the same time write copy that sounds great and that's super engaging and compelling and doesn't just sound like, we sell yellow guinea pig jumpers. Yellow pig jumpers are what we sell. Yellow guinea pig jumpers again and again and again, like you do see on some sites. So it's just that balance of feeding Google and pleasing humans. And I think it is pretty straightforward. It's not rocket science once you know how. But I think sometimes people go too far down the Google route and things look over-optimized, and you can kind of tell. Or they go too far down the chatty woo-woo route, and the page just is rambling and loses you and is difficult to read. So it's that balance, I guess. Does that explain it?
It does, yeah. And then so say of all the pages that mention yellow guinea pig jumpers, how then does Google decide if you're the first person or the last person of all the people on the web with that keyword on your page?
Well, I think, it's pretty tricky. That's the problem. Even once you've ticked all the boxes and you have a really technically sound site and your page content is really well optimized, I guess the next part of it is, building authority through links. So encouraging other people to link to your site and link to your content, not buying them necessarily, or, adding your site to countless sort of rubbishy directories, but genuinely building up relationships with other businesses who want to link to your content, or using social media to encourage people to share your content so that the word of mouth gets out there. So, I mean, that's the piece. But I think that the truth is, it's an incredibly competitive world. Like, you try typing copywriter into Google and you'll see how many thousands of results come back. So often it goes right back to basics, and it's about what keywords you even choose in the first place. Do you need to go a bit more niche and get a little bit less traffic, but a bit more targeted traffic? So guinea pig jumpers might be super competitive, and no matter if you do everything right, you tick all the boxes, you just can't beat, the big guinea pig jumper seller out there. So maybe you don't go for that. Maybe you go for handmade cashmere guinea pig jumpers. You go a little bit more niche, and the more niche you get, the smaller the playing field gets.
And therefore, so then you've got more visibility on the search engines, hopefully page one. And then I guess as your site builds authority from there, then maybe you will increase your chances of being seen for guinea pig jumpers. But until then, you're appearing for handmade woolen yellow guinea pig jumpers.
Yeah, exactly. And then, as you mentioned earlier, email is so important. If you purely focus on SEO, you got a hard battle, so as soon as you can, try and get people subscribed to your lists or your pages. And then, you don't need to worry about SEO anymore, because you've got repeat customers and you've got loyal people who are coming back to you to buy every year when they need a new guinea pig jumper. They're back with you,
I guess because email then gives you the opportunity to actually strengthen that relationship. Because if you're just relying on SEO, hey, it's a starting point, I think, and that's where somebody gets exposed to you. But if you then, what I call it, fail to do the business card swap, like at an event, you might speak to all these wonderful people, but not exchange details with anyone, then you've kind of wasted your money, because there's no way you can follow up with them. And that thing that you're saying, signing up, getting people to sign up to your email or your list or your products or whatever, then that way you can actually start the relationship, get to know them, and eventually they become customers. But very unlikely off one of your first interaction off a Google search, hey?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it depends what type of business you are. If you're selling like a low value thing, like a $5 thing, you might get a sale first up.
True.
But if you're someone like us who's, selling almost a relationship, or, someone who's selling like copy for like a 30-page website, that's a big investment for a business. They might come back to your site multiple times before they build up the confidence that you're the right person for them. I've had someone who's been following me on Facebook for 3 years, and then finally last week he said, at last I've got a job that I can do with you, but it's taken 3 years for him to kind of trust me, build up that relationship, have a business that he wants copy for, and remember to use me. So, exactly. I think remarketing is just as important as that first initial touch point,
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Kate, who have you learnt from over the years?
Well, I mean, back in my agency days when I worked at Ogilvy, I had a few very brutal creative directors who ripped everything I did to shreds, and that was a horrible but awesome learning experience. So I think, those kind of Don Draper types from back then were very helpful. And these days, I don't do a lot of reading. I must admit, I don't read a lot of ebooks or books. I love your book. I've been working my way through that, your Web Marketing That Works, that you very kindly gave me when we met. And I love a book called Rework by Jason Fried and David Heinemann Hansen. I can't say it.
DHH, I always refer to it as. That name's a mouthful,
I like that because, it's not specific. It's not about how to run an email campaign, but it's more big picture and about reassurance. So, those are a couple of books that I've read. But, I do a lot of reading online, and I follow a lot of people online, and I look at their websites, and I learn by sort of osmosis, by just absorbing what they're doing. I'm a big fan of Robert Garish from Flying Solo. I don't know if you know him, but
am I familiar with him?
He's been like a lighthouse to me without sounding over the top. And as I said, colleagues, we talked about Glenn earlier. Charles Cunningham is another copywriter who's always been super generous and helped me so much. And then I guess in celebrity terms, it would be someone like Rand Fishkin from Moz. I love his videos. I love his, I think he's very much himself, and he's a little bit out there with that great moustache and his cool shirts, and, but he's a really clever bloke as well. So he combines that kind of personality with brains, which is like a beautiful combination.
And he was a very, very worthy recipient of your big SEO
He
cookie,
was. I was like a giggly
teenager.
It was mortifying. But, I got to meet him.
It was very cool, hey, very cool.
Yeah.
Now, what final closing pieces of advice do you have for our listeners, Kate, if any?
I think it's just, keep on tracking. Don't get overwhelmed by everything that there is out there that you could be doing. We've talked about lots of different tactics today: email, SEO, social media. It can feel like, oh my God, well, when am I actually supposed to actually do work and earn money? I could spend my whole life just marketing. So I think, experiment, fail, find out what works for you. And really importantly, don't compare yourself. I've spent far too much time looking sideways at other people and going, oh, they're doing that. Should I be doing that? Even though it doesn't feel right, I should do that, shouldn't I? Because they're doing it. And I think, as time goes on, I'm getting truer to what I want to do and who I want to be, and kind of like what everyone else is doing. It's up to them, let them get on with it and just focus on what you are good at and what makes you happy, because otherwise, what was the point of starting your business in the first place?
Very good advice, because it's way too easy to get jealous of where other people are in their journey. There's always going to be someone doing better or different stuff to you, and you can always make the assumption that they're more happy or they're more successful or they're doing a better job. But as you say, if you focus on what brings you joy and what you got into business for in the first place, then that's a great way to be framing everything.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, how can listeners get in touch with you?
Well, type Kate Toon into Google or copywriter and you'll pretty much find me. That's the advantage of having a really stupid second name. Or they can come to my website, which is katetoncopywriter.com.au, or check out my new thing, which is copywritingschool.com.au. So, yeah, I'd love to meet you all online.
Fantastic. Now, is Copywriting School, is this the online course or is this your in-person courses?
Oh, that's like a school. It's got lots of different things on there, webinars and checklists. My online course, my new course, it's still being birthed as we speak, but it's going to be the recipe for SEO success. You can go and sign up now to get on the waiting list, but it hasn't fully launched yet. So
wonderful.
I'll be working on it as soon as I get off this call.
Well, that is good. I look forward to seeing the course, and thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, Kate. It's a pleasure to finally have this detailed conversation.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks a lot, Adam.
Pleasure. See you.
Bye.
There we have a fantastic interview with Kate Toon. Now, the takeaways for me really is that we've got permission to be ourselves and to not only have personality with our writing, but also to be ourselves and to really be clear with ourselves as to which clients we want to work with, which ones we don't, and having a real abundance mentality. And that there's lots of work out there, there's lots of competitors, although that's not the right way of framing it because they're really friends and people in the same industry as you, where there's a lot more benefit to collaborating and sharing and learning from each other than there is putting up the barricade and hoarding your information, your client list and knowledge and keeping it from others. So Kate's been very generous sharing her personal stories on the show, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it. As always, this show is brought to you by our book called Web Marketing That Works, and specifically the 33 free marketing templates that go with it. So to download those, head to bluewiremedia.com.au/book. And of course, email me with any feedback or questions. I'm on adam.franklin@bluewiremedia.com.au or tweet me at adam_Franklin. Thank you so much for listening right the way to the end. I'll catch you next time.